They say that the fastest way to gain a 60-year-old experience when you're at your 30s is actually reading a book. I repeat, they say the fastest way to gain an experience of a 60-year-old individual is by simply reading the book. You can either read the book or you can actually get that individual to learn something out of it. Okay, now this is this. On this video, I'm going to talk about the 4 things that the older people regret to have done, or they regret that they should have done that particular thing when they were at their 20s or their 30s. And if you happen to watch this video, you're lucky enough to get caught by this video when you're at your 20s and 30s, and this is the age where the older people regret. Some of them watch my videos and be like, Joseph, I really wish that information that you're sharing was shared to me back when I was my 30s or my 20s. Could have done wonders. It is what it is. In regard, you can do something. Anyway, this is good, Joseph. If you're watching me for the first time, go ahead and hit that subscription button, because I upload a video each and every day, so you never miss a piece. Go ahead and make sure that you like and also comment on the comment section. Tell me where you're watching from, and let's get into the business. All right, now the point number 1, or that one thing that almost every old people usually regret that they should have done it back when they were what? They were young, that is at their 20s and 30s, is that no matter how small, they should have started early. They should have started early. Okay? For example, if you tell somebody, hey, be throwing in your 5K continuously. In a period of 10 years, you have yourself $1 million. Joseph, that's a long time. You know what? I just want a thing that, instantly gratifies me, and I feel good, and I feel congratulations, and enjoy life, and what have you. And by the time you realize, hey, you know what? 10 years are down the line. Okay? For example, do you remember that thing called COVID-19? Remember that thing when it happened in 2020? Would you imagine if I tell you we are heading 5 years? And it sounds or seems like if it was yesterday. Those are 5 years down the line. All right, are we together now? These guys usually say, no matter if I knew, I wish I could have started way earlier. If I embarked on buying stocks or shares, even if you're buying penny stocks or penny shares, those shares that you buy with as little as you can, okay, provided you make sure that you do all your research and calculations so you don't lose your cash. And also they'd be like, you know what, I wish I started that MMF thing when I was actually young, when I could spare, that 10,000, that 20,000, 50, 100, or whichever amount of money I have. Right now, as we speak, the energy of production is actually going down. I have to raise my passive income, but I did not do that. So they walk with this regret. It's only that they cannot share with you. And I want you to do this, okay? Let's give ourselves a challenge. Go walk in the streets of, maybe if perhaps you have your parents with you, if you're lucky enough to, or maybe you have your guardians and whatever, or you have that friend of yours who happens to be older individual. Go grab them, what we call randomly, and ask them, sir or Mrs., do you have that thing that in your life you do regret that you ought to have done but you did not do? And just be free to them, okay? That particular time you'll be able to share with you, indeed, yes, there was something, I wish I could have done this or the other. In that regard, then learn something out of that particular. Then that's why I always come here and share with you. Guys, please start with as little as you can. Maybe perhaps I talk about investments here, you think I talk about hundreds of thousands of millions of billions. No, you can start with that what you have as low as you can, and then grow yourself and propagate yourself to the next and higher levels. That's what you do. But if you live in a cocoon of despising that small thing that you have, you only feel like, hey, you know what, I only have 200 shilling, that's like a $2, or 500 or 1,000 shilling, I'm a student, I don't have much, what can I do? I have to wait until I get employed, I have to wait until my salary hit a certain levels of income, I have to wait until I do this. Let me tell you one thing, if there's something that you didn't know, things becomes more demanding as you grow older. For example, you didn't have a family when you're young, you end up having a family, you end up having kids, more responsibilities, more expectations. Your parents are aging, they require your support, be it either financially or socially or something. You end up having more responsibilities and more responsibilities. So if you're waiting at that particular time to throw that action, so that it's never gonna happen. You start as of now, be action oriented, and grow yourself to the next level. The next thing that these older people, almost all of them, they usually regret about it is that they can't solve, they actually realized one thing, that you can't solve everyone's problem. You can't solve everyone's problem. You can't solve everyone's problems. Yes, I know back in our hearts or our mind, we would wish to help everybody. We would wish to help our brothers and sisters. We would wish to help our neighbors, the friends, the mother and the father, everybody out there, so that at least we can do something. And sometimes there are people who usually take these responsibilities of helping them to a levels whereby you find these guys cannot even be able to cater for their own what do you call them requirements. They cannot even support their family and what have you, so they are trying to solve everyone's problem. There is nothing wrong with helping people, but let me tell you one secret: you cannot manage to solve everyone's problem. You have to understand one thing: there is always a thin line, there is always that boundary, there is always and let me tell you one secret: I've seen people going abroad or overseas, working, having that cash, toiling and trying the best as they can, sacrificing just to make sure that the ends meet, and they throw back money home, and they buy that, they invest on that, they support them, and then the time comes when now they're supposed to go back home. They haven't done substantive thing, and guess what happens? Those guys whom used to be helped, they're the first people to gossip around them. They be like, you know what, if I was given opportunity to be like so and so, I could be so and so where he or she is. Because you know what, you understand what I'm saying? And I'm not calling for people not to help their fellows. No, you are supposed to, but always understand thing. Also, you are among the list. You are also among that list of the people whom you're supposed to help. If your mother is on the list of being helped, if your parents are on the list of being helped, if your siblings are on the list of being helped, also feature on that particular list. Pay yourself, invest for yourself, take care of your life. And let me tell you one thing: there is not every challenge and problem and sort of sort of a comment that will be made that is worth a response, that is worth you trying to solve them. You cannot solve them. By the way, I'm gonna throw this example, and I want to tell you or ask you whether you can be able to relate. Have you ever been somewhere where you're a young guy trying to debate about the politics of a particular country or your country, and then an old person shows up, and he or she sits just next to you guys? Maybe you're meeting at a public place where they are seeking services and what have you, or they're buying something. They just listen to you, they look at you, they don't make a comment, they don't make any contribution, they get served, then they leave, and you're like, guess what, I thought that guy could have actually chipped in on this conversation and say something. They don't say anything. They look at you guys and then they disappear. Why? Because not everything that's actually worth a response. Sometimes I make these videos, I share with people, they tell me, oh Joseph, out of you I learned something, I have actually invested, my behavior as far as the money is actually, what we call changing. I can see something that I'm saving. And then all of a sudden you can meet a text. I do meet a text like, guess what, you tell us what do you have? If you have all those ideas, why are you coming here to tell us to subscribe to your YouTube channel? Why should you talk with us? And I'm like, oh my goodness, does it mean now I should be talking? Does it mean now that you can't even, you get what I'm saying? There is always that strange. In Swahili we say, katika msafara wa kunguru hakukosi brukenge. There's always those people who never see anything. There are those people who are there to criticize. Those are the thorns that usually step on when you move on life. Okay, so you don't look at those things. I don't have to waste your energy. For example, should I even waste my energy replying to that comment, or should I tell somebody who has told me, you know what, Joseph, I like your videos, I should even respond to that individual, and that's how you progress and move to the next level. All right. So the life in the life in short, it says that not everyone you cannot solve everyone's problem. All right. No matter how blessed you are, people's needs are diversified. So be keen, cautious, and careful when you try to solve them. And this now takes me to the next revo. Okay. And that is that don't there's this regret that they usually say this: going broke to prove that you're rich. They regret trying to going broke to prove that they are rich, to prove they are rich. What does it mean? Have you ever seen these people usually try the best as they can? They are not rich. They're trying to grab that nice shoe. They're trying to hang around with certain friends. They're trying to, to impress some people here and there. They're trying to just to prove to people indeed that they're successful, they are rich, life is taking them well, and all those kind of things. You find somebody struggling to buy a very expensive watch. They're not even investing. They're expensive, expensive clothing and designer clothing and what have you, just in the name of proving indeed they're doing well in life and what have you. Okay, by the way, guess what? There's nothing wrong with you having those expensive clothing. There is nothing wrong with you hanging around in those expensive places and also luxury places. places and hanging around with your friends, throwing parties and what have you. There's nothing wrong with that if you do it appropriately, and if you do it when you know what, you're not breaking your bank. You can actually, or you have some set aside investments that you've done and what have you. Actually, you're surviving on, you're doing such using what we call the passive income. But this issue of trying to prove a point that indeed, you know what, I don't know who told people that you have to live a life of proving to people that you're successful. You know, a real success is whereby, and that's why I always tell people, I don't have to come here and show you, hey, you know what, I have this, so you have to. And by the way, can you go check out on this, especially those celebrities that you people follow? They floss with those big cars and what have you. You know, they show you how successful they are. They'll never give you a hint on how you can invest. Nothing. They just show you, I bought this new car, I'm building this house tour of my house, and all those kind of things. They'll never tell you, hey, you know what, hey, by the way, as you're watching me, and I know you love watching me, how about you take your coins and throw here? How much you invest here? By the way, you should take your services. And by the way, whatever I'm showing you here, it took me a lot of time to build this, for me to acquire this, to do all those kind of things. And what I would recommend you to do as you watch me, of which I highly recommend and also support and say thank you, also make sure that you also do something. It takes time, and one day you might reach here. They just show you and nothing, they entertain you, boom, they don't leave you with any education. And these young people, you know, these are the people who just love to watch those kind of things. And let me tell you one thing. You are supposed to understand one thing, that you cannot. The only way I usually recommend people to do is that go broke when you're investing. Go broke investing. I've seen people who have actually gone broke investing. They spend when they invest. They spend a lot into the investments because they know one day those investments will pay off. Okay? So the point is this. You find young people trying the best that they can to prove that they're earning, to prove that they are rich. And the old people, they know one thing. I really regret. I wish that I did not actually spent to prove that I'm rich, where indeed I was actually struggling financially. And that's why they knew, or they understand by their old age, that it is not even worth it to prove to people that I'm successful. And that's why you find people, there's some people who usually have this wisdom when they are young. They get the money, but you never see them, you know, in the front line trying to prove to people that they are successful. It's you guys who are identifying and saying, yeah, you know what, this guy has money, but he never talks about it. You know, and I always tell people, invest and be successful and live by your own terms. I love a guy by the name, this guy who wrote The Psychology of Money. I forgot his name. I don't know whether it's Morgan Housel. I think so. He says that the best or the greatest financial, literacy or skill that you can ever have is to live a life that you don't have to prove anything to people. You know, you don't have to live a life of proving that indeed you're doing well and what have you. If you can have that skill by yourself, it is greatest that it's so much great that it can actually solve you a lot of things. Would you believe if I tell you that most of the money that you people use, it is that cash that is called a fit-in fit-in expenses of servicing your starters. You know, for example, if you're a doctor, there is expected where you're supposed to live, there is expectation what you're supposed, you get what I'm saying. So one thing that most of the people tend to do is that living according to what the society is expecting them to do or behave or actually act upon. So be very careful on what you're dealing with and who you're talking to, so that you don't get yourself into such problems. Okay, let's go to the third or the last point. The last point is other than what we call, they have actually realized that nobody cared all along. Nobody cared. And by the way, still nobody cares all along. All along. It has been a lonely game, that's for sure. You know, people tend to, and by the way, I was affected by this kind of a mentality back when I graduated. You know, I wrote my parents a business plan. You know what, guys, I've graduated. There are no jobs out there. If you can fund me, start a business and what have you. I give them reasons why they should fund me and what have you. And I used to have this entitlement mentality. I should be supported. I'm young, I'm fresh out of school, I'm supposed to be shown. You know what? Nobody cares. I mean, even legally in Kenya, if you reach 18 years old, your parents are not obligated to help you in one way or the other. But if you're below 18, that's a story of another day. But the point is this: I had this mentality. I had this mentality of, hey, you know what? I have to do this. I have to be. No. But by the way, I wasted almost a whole year, thinking like these guys hate me, it's like they disregard what I'm telling them and what have you. But little did I know, nobody cared. Nobody cared, okay? So the issue is this. Stop hanging around. I know young people have to blame the government. Oh, it's because of it's because I'm poor because of the government and what have you. There might be truth here and there, but the fact, even if you still remain on that complainant door, you're still complaining on that door, you're waiting them to open, just turn around and look at other things that you can be able to do along the way as they work on whatever they are working on, whatever these that they told you that they're gonna work upon. So go ahead and do something, okay? Go ahead and work by yourself. And by the way, even those politicians that we do hate, by the way, those who actually squander our money and whatever they think it is, some of them, actually most of them, nobody supported them. They were so aggressive. They were not doing what you are doing right now. They were aggressive. They were in between there trying to make their ends meet. So that is exactly what you're supposed to do. I'm saying this, and I'm not trying to sort of, be on the government sides. I'm not on the side. I'm simply telling you, as much as they have a role to play, of which we cannot disregard, it's true, they need to do something. At the same time, you also have a role to play. Do something about it so that at least you don't live in this blame game. I'm poor because someone is rich. No, you don't do that. For example, if you hear somebody is earning a million shilling in a day, you'll be like, oh, they're stealing. No. Not really per se, especially if they're the CEOs and what have you. I was somewhere in a seminar, and then I shared one of the biggest CEO here in Kenya, and I told those guys, they're earning over 1 million in a day because they're being paid 33 million. That's like earning 11,000 USD in a day. And the guys were like, no, 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 those are the guys where we are not growing rich. And then I gave a very simple example, of which I'll share that later in another video. And they were like, oh, wow, I didn't see it in another perspective. Indeed, some of these people are legit. Yeah, sure, we have crooked people in between, but what I'm trying to drive home is this: please do not live on the blame game. Nobody cared along the way, so go ahead and work by yourself for yourself, and also make sure that you put your house in order as far as the finances are concerned. That's good, just speaking. Make sure that you hit that like button, make sure that you subscribe, and if you'd like to have a conversation with me, don't forget the number is always on the description of this visit video. For now, say goodbye and see you in the next one.